Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being with us and welcome to one of our flagship programs, the Bengal Chamber Think series. Before we proceed further, I would also like to express the Bengal Chamber's sincere gratitude to our chief patron, GIS Group, in association with The Telegraph, our co-partner, Peerless Group, hospitality partner, Six Baligan Place. Thank you all for extending your kind support for making this event happen. Thank you so much. May I now invite Mr. Anup Hun, Chairperson, the Marketing and Brand National Committee of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to kindly grace the stage to formally inaugurate this session with his welcome address and introduce the speaker. Please, sir.
Good evening. Uh, Thank you very much for being here with us this evening. Let me start by uh, apologizing for starting late. I think traffic has got the better of many of us today, and we had to be a little patient for everyone to get here. Thank you for your patience. Let me begin by welcoming Mr. Subramanyeswar. Subbu? Okay. Thank you for allowing me to say that. So, when I was asking him this question as to whether I could take the liberty of calling him Subbu, he says, I get my own name wrong, so you don't worry about it. It's a pleasure, sir, to have you this evening. And let me tell you a little about the Think series. We began this uh, lecture series about a decade ago. And we've had a host of eminent speakers from industry and otherwise. Let me give you a few examples. Air Marshal Raha from the Indian Air Force here to speak to us. Bharat Puri, Pidilite, KBS Anand, Asian Paints, R. Ramakrishnan from Polycab, Jaideep Gandhi from Bajaj Electricals. So it's always been a thought where it's like a master class. I always call it that because I think it's very, very educative, it's thought provoking, and a sharing of experience. And I said, I think these are platforms from where we learn. So the Think series is an endeavor of learning and to hear the experiences, the thought processes, the perspectives which each of the Think speakers bring. Uh, I've been given the task of introducing Subbu. So normally I never refer to papers, but I'll have to read this. Okay, the topic which is chosen is something which is very, very close to my heart, which is the clash of cultures. India's diversity demands a fresh marketing playbook. All of us who've been in marketing over the decades will see the kind of changes which has taken place. So we go back, let me try and watershed years. We have 91, 92, when the economy opened out. And we said India has now become two markets. We used to call it India, the new India, and Bharat at that point in time. But I think the kind of changes which have taken place thereafter, particularly after COVID, organizations must understand, and marketers more so, that you're dealing with a very, very diverse kind of tapestry of cultures. And, your entire branding efforts, your understanding of consumers, your distribution efforts, all must design themselves to the need of this diversity. So it's going to be great listening to Subbu today. Subbu is the Group CEO, Mullen, Lowe Lintas Group, and Chief Strategy Officer, Asia Pacific, and the Head of Global Planning Council of Mullen Lowe Global. He has spent 2.5 decades in advertising and marketing, having worked in Wipro, Publix, Radivision, Saatchi and Saatchi in the markets of India, US, and the UK. Some of the business brands he's anchored: Procter & Gamble, Unilever's, Colgate, Citibank, General Mills, Samsung, Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, Tata Tea, Tanishq, Idea Cellular, Britannia, Google, Flipchart, Fast Track, Swiggy, Z, TVS, and so on. So it reads like a directory of brands that you've been through. So uh, Subbu has been awarded the South Asia Planner of the Year twice by the world-renowned Campaign magazine. He's been he's won 142 awards across his career. He's played a leading role in Mullen, Lowe Linters Group becoming the #1 agency in India and APAC, and #2 globally in the FX Index rankings. A regular columnist and a passionate educationist, and he's also a visiting faculty of top business schools like IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Nagpur, and I'm told while I was talking to him, IIM Calicut. He also visits Kellogg School of Management, Illinois, MIT Sloan, Boston, and he is the author of Brands to Stand. So while going through this, I did ask him a question. After doing all this, when do you get time to work? Uh, you know, but I guess, I think my own experience has taught me that if you indulge in education, right, you are learning yourself, right? And if you meet graduates out of an IM, uh, uh, whenever I visited my own uh, alma mater, which is XLRI, and taught there, I learned a lot myself. And in age, I passed out in 1982. So whenever about I think beginning 2000, I realized that I was out of context. What they taught me in 82 was not relevant anymore. So it's kind of a sabbatical which I took at that point in time to recreate myself. Uh, I think I'm still learning, and all the changes and the new world which has emerged. So this actually keeps you abreast. May I now invite you, sir, to come and address us? And I'm sure all of you are going to go back a little richer than you came in here. Thank you very much. May I invite you, sir?
Firstly, thank you very much, Anup sir, for a very, very generous and kind introduction. Good evening, everybody. Thank you all. I know that you have all braved massive traffic, and all of you have made it here. Thank you very much for being here, and I'll share some of the things that I'm doing, some of my learnings. I've been learning a lot on this. Let me share my learnings with you, and hopefully, with your interactions, I'll learn from you too, and that's what I look forward to. Can you all see the screen? Yeah, thank you. So the subject I'm going to have a conversation with you today is on clash of cultures. Why India's diversity demands a fresh marketing playbook. This is something that I've been doing a lot of work in this area for the last few years, and probably the time has come now. Okay, and I was telling Kavita in the afternoon, actually, it's high time probably now that all marketing folks, all marketing people, take a look at this and seriously look at and how do we navigate brands, and how do we connect with the audience, how do we form relationships, what kind of bonds do we form. Okay, of course we are all in the business of selling, we sell at the end of the day something, but how do you connect with the audience in a country like ours, in a culture like ours? And that's what I'm going to share my perspective with all of you today. Let me start with uh, a video that I'll play. Okay? This is something that is known to all of you. Okay, for you, this particular video will not be new, but in the context of what I'm going to discuss with you, I thought it's good to play this and then get into the discussion.
Everyone who visits India comes with their own set of expectations.
Siglo XV, siglo XVII, británicos aquí reinan.
Because in India, we've got even more languages with the number of states that we have. We've got plenty of languages in India.
What happened, Devsena?
क्या हुआ था देवसेना
ఏం జరిగింది దేవసేన
ఇందో నడన్నది దేవసేనే
Not saying India is not what you expect. It is. But it's also what you don't. Its real beauty, however, lies in how uniquely the expected coexists with the unexpected. Like this,
Well, in that case, welcome to Great India.
with this,
What is required, it seems to me, is accepting the principle that reparations are owed. Personally, I'd be quite happy if it was £1 a year for the next 200 years.
this,
Let's make chicken tikka masala.
with this, with this. It's a place where chaos finds solace in silence. Convention shakes a leg with contemporary. And tradition comes together with innovation. To create an engaging, enriching, thought-provoking, sometimes life-altering, contrasting confluence of experiences from many states existing in one. Welcome to India. Welcome to State of States.
The state of states. Keep that as the headline thought. Keep that as the headline thought. That's what I'm going to discuss with you. What's the state of our states? Now look at this. Okay. It's a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. This was what Sir Winston Churchill said about Stalin's Russia many, many years ago. And when I look at that today, to me, that represents the modern India. While he talked about Stalin's Russia then, not in any political terms or anything like that, but there is an interesting perspective. And closer home, our own, we're very proud of this man, our own Amartya Sen. He said, whatever you can say about India, the opposite is also true. Right? Fantastic. So brilliantly put. Summarizes everything that we go through in our lives. Now, when I look at this, okay, just let me pull back even more. And we all know, like we all talk about how we are a subcontinent, a continent such resulting amalgamation of states, resulting in a smorgasbord of regions, cultures, religions, ethnicities, languages, food, clothing, lifestyle, and political ideologies, all like everything. If I may exaggerate, probably every 100 kilometers that we travel, we come across all different kinds of things. In the afternoon, I had an opportunity to meet somebody from the government of West Bengal. And she was talking about how West Bengal itself, if you take, and she gave me a perspective of like within West Bengal, there are 450 different mangoes are available. How many have you eaten? She asked. I said, like, now we tend to say, like, one mango for. I didn't even know that there is a Bengali mango and all. Like, okay, you all always talk about whichever is a better marketed one, like Alfonso and all those kinds of things. But it's interesting when you talk about that's who we are. And here it is like I put a perspective of like from a governments and all those things. You can similarly map the country on food or languages and various kinds of things like the places that we worship and everything. Now, the interesting thing is, while this unparalleled diversity in the world, like, it's always a reality to us. Okay, it's not new to us. It's always a reality, but it was never really a stark and strident phenomenon. We never looked at it. We never looked at it that's so different. We are different from this to this. You cross another state, you cross another city, and all those kinds of things. We all we come together. We all know it's a beautifully diverse country and all those kinds of things. But we learned. We learned beautifully how to coexist and share with each other and all those things. It was never that. Now, people just went about. They do this is how business is usual, and we know that everybody has got their own cultures, everybody has got their own traditions, everybody has got their own way of doing things, going about life, and all those kinds of things. We all know pretty well. And then, right from a young age, we know that this is how we coexist, this is how we live. And that has been happening. Interestingly, when I look at it in the last 10 years, perhaps, and it's becoming even more pronounced, okay, as we progress, like it's even more in the last 3 to 4 years, I would say, there is a rise of regionalism. That's what we have seen, a rise of regionalism, a rise of ethnicity that we talk about, and we can see it all across the country. Perhaps it's a global phenomenon. When we talk about the right-wing movements and various kinds of things in political terms and all, I'm not getting into that. But there is a rise of ethnicity. And people are like, and particularly when I look at younger people, when I look at the younger people today, because they're so well-read or well-informed, and you know everything, you're well widely exposed, and you're very confident generation. And you start wearing everything, like you are global, you are local, you are national, you are ultra-local, everything at the same time. And you're wearing all of them with pride on your sleeve. You don't need to compensate. There is no need to compensate a behavior. Everything is associative, like it is so brilliantly. And depending on, it's almost many times I look at it, when I look at a young person, it's like method acting in a life movie. In a day, they will be having 5 or 6 different avatars. And beautifully, the context at which you find yourself in, you are coming across that. But there's so many outlets also for people to express. Once upon a time, there were no outlets to express. So people like pretty much like, that's why marketers went about stereotyping people. Like, and they say, oh, he's coming from this region, she's from this. But it's like this, and all. You pretty much caricaturized everything. And today it is not that. Like, you can see that. And when I see that, probably when I look at it, politicians probably use it as ethnic fundamentalism to divide people. And when I look at from a marketing and brand perspective, you can beautifully stoke ethnic pride. So you see that, like, one way to look at it, is it a revivalism or it's even activism? That's what we notice. And flamboyantly displaying and celebrating their own unique traditions and all those things are happening. Now, as I said, now look at this. Artists knew it very well. Okay, they have been doing it fantastically. Like, look at all these, like, they're all very, very specific, region-specific stories, but how they have traveled across the country. And as I said, politicians, okay, they know it very well. Okay? They have the best insights into the audience. They have the best pulse of the audience. They know it much, much more than any of us. Now, with regionalism taking root across the country, okay, with newfound vigor, that's what we see everywhere. Now, deconstructing the cultural history when we look at it and how it impacts modern aspirations and becomes all the more important today. For us to look at what could be the journey, what should the journey be over the next 5 years or the next 10 years, how do we go forward? And nowhere is the task, as a point that I said, like, is more important than in the sphere of marketing and brand communication. Like, there's so many plethora of brands that are happening. Like, our life is filled with brands, one brand and the other. Like, and marketing is when I look at, like, many times, I'm sorry to say that, okay, I'm a student of marketing, but somewhere I feel like, why is marketing? This is a subject that keeps happening in the last 3-4 years. Various conversations, like, whenever whichever forum that I attend, like, oh, this marketing lost relevance. Is everything, like, being done by the techies? Like, what is happening to marketing? Does it influence anything? And all those kinds of things. Probably, like, it's time for us to evolve, and see what can be done. The key point that I said again, for decades, brands have relied on stereotypes. You know that, like, if a Bollywood has to tell a story about a South Indian, like, what it is going to be. And similarly, in South India, like, if they have to depict somebody from North, somebody from East, somebody from West, it was typecast. It was very, very stereotypical. Okay, this has been too simplistic and limited in its explorative range. And when you look at it, there's plenty, like, each culture has got something to offer. Now, I've always looked at the brands. Okay. It's when you look at brands in a puristic way or in a deeper way, I've had many arguments with many marketers on this. Like it's a fascinating thing to talk about. Even today, I refuse to believe that brands are part of marketing. Marketing as a subject is probably 80, 90 years old. Brands have existed for thousands of years in this world. Okay, every city is a brand, every religion is a brand, every language is a brand, everything is a brand. Right? And brands have existed for thousands of years. And when you start looking brands as part of culture and not marketing, and the answers to us are far deeper. You can appropriate the societal and cultural innovations that happen in the cause of brands. And brands have that power. Brands have the power to shape cultures. Brands have the power to influence people, influence the thinking. And then how do I organize myself? How do I lead my life and all? So many brands have impacted us, like in the way we conduct ourselves, the way we go about our lives. So my argument is the one size fits all approach to marketing and brand building doesn't seem to effectively work anymore. Many times, many times, some famous man many years ago has said, I don't know, I spent 100 bucks or whatever it is, I don't know, like 50% goes waste, which one got 50% is working or something like that. It is so true. Because most of the times, and today when I look at it, the rush to do something, and the performance marketing that we talk about, are various kinds of things. You don't even have time. Or probably we are rushed. We are rushing ourselves. I have to quickly do and so something. And then you realize, you look back and then say, oh, it hasn't worked. Or let me go. Chalo, kuch aur try karte. Let me do this. Let me do that and all those kinds of. And that's not the way. It is. I genuinely believe brands and marketing. There's this famous thing marketing. Peter Drucker once said, marketing and innovation are two sides of the same coin. And it is us as marketers who have given it up. Okay, nobody has taken it away. Nobody has stolen it away from the marketing people. It's marketing that decided to give it up. And it's time, because we have become part of I think many times what happens is when you become hostages to your own processes and you start and boxing yourself and stop innovating and stop looking at newer perspectives. Marketing is all about innovation. And it has to keep evolving. You can never templatize and create a formula out of marketing. This is the only way it works. Because I always believe, when you look at it, okay, all of you are practitioners here, look at it. Because the whole aspect of marketing or management is inexact science. In science is exact. We knew when I went into the lab, you mix this and this has to come out. If that doesn't come out, I am wrong. You're given 5% error, 3% error. Here it is it's a point of view, it's a perspective. And then you use your collective wisdom of your team and your experience, your knowledge of the audience, of the markets and all those things, and you put forth a perspective there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So this is the time. And we again talk a lot. I hear a lot of clients talking about, oh, we want to win in many Indias. At least the conversation has come to that now. You are accepting the fact it is not one India, it is many Indias. I always feel we are joined together by an idea called India, but we are different Indias. We are many Indias, many varied Indias we are. And it's beautiful. And as much as we celebrate the unity and then the collectiveness, it's beautiful to celebrate the differences too. And that's fantastic. Like when I talked about particularly the younger audience, and 2/3 of this country, look at this, 2/3 of the country, 32% of the country are the Gen Z. Another 32% or 33% are the millennials. And 2/3 of this country consists of like people younger than 40 years. And we have to do business with those people. Look at the mindset of those audience and how beautifully they're switching between one and the other, how beautifully they are wearing everything on there with pride on their sleeve. So when you look at it and go deeper, at the root of every culture or subculture exists cultural gene codes. Okay? All of us have a genetic code as individuals. Every culture has a cultural gene code. And understanding the interplay, when you understand between these codes and how they collide with the events and narratives of today, and when you fuse these things, how has that culture emerged? What is the historical context? How did it come into existence? And then how it has evolved? And you fuse it with the today, what is happening in the digital media world, everything. And then you you see the collision of those, and then from there, what happens? That can lead you into a fantastic story. So this is what the thinking was behind us, and that's where we embarked on this massive exercise across the country in the last 1 year, which we called it State of States. And what we did was we collaborated with Quantum Consumer Solutions. Quantum does a lot of very good work, deep, insightful work, and all those things. And an exercise that we began last in 2023, August, September, around that time, and which we just finished. We have deconstructed the entire country, all the 28 states of the country, every single thing. We went deep to 1,000 years in some cases, and then see from history how did that culture emerge, how has it evolved, and what are the codes, and then looked at, as I said, fused it with the contemporary culture, and then arrived at the cultural codes, and then from each code, what are the tensions of that code, and then how we can design principles for the brand and all those kinds of things. That's how we arrived. So I obviously can't take you through the entire thing because each one is about 4 hours. If I sit and go through that, I went through everything. So I will do a little speed date with all of you. Okay. And even a speed date, I thought like, okay, fine. And shall I go through all this? I said, no, it's damn hard. Like, to. So what I said is, okay, fine. Now there is this understanding. Interesting thing is, end of the day, it's all about people. How people get emote, and how do they emote, and what happens to them, and when forces act on them. So I thought, let me do masculinity and femininity. Okay, how is masculinity different in each culture? How is femininity different in each culture? Okay, I cannot go through all the 28, but I picked up 6. Okay, and because I also want to show some illustrations. Okay, live examples of some examples of when I say a particular point, like what is there an illustration like that which captures that emotion? Okay, I'm not going to show examples from my agency and try and sell our agency here. Okay, there's only one I'm going to show, but all the others are all like beautiful work done by different people. So let's look at decoding masculinity and femininity. Okay, 6 states I'll go through. Okay. The first one is, let me start with Gujarat. Now, the masculinity, the headline thought for masculinity in Gujarat is quite masculinity. Okay, it's very interesting. It's quite masculinity. And look at it. Gujarati man's life revolves around 2 things: chasing success smartly and persistently. That's one side, and being a devoted family. That's another dimension. Okay, those are the 2 key dimensions. Now, in order to keep that razor sharp focus on his personal profession, what they have done is, because these people, they used to leave house in search of business and go away. They didn't know when they would come back. It could be months in some time. So the entire house was left to the woman. The woman managed, the Gujarati woman managed the entire household. Everything like that. She was the queen of the domestic space and all of that. But she still exists tight control over major family decisions, does not go through the brute force, but through the authority as the head of the household. And doesn't portray any assertive physicality that you will never see with a Gujarati. To compensate, he lives vicariously through role models who embody a more aggressive flavor of masculinity. That's the code of that. And the interesting thing is, while Gujarati men actually manage the business network, the Gujarati women manage the social network. And that's the reason why, when I went to a study, that said, interestingly, because the men used to go away and the women used to be there, they all drew force from the power from staying together. They all come together, stay together collectively. That's the reason why even till today, a lot of Gujarati families tend to stay together. Large families, when you come across, that was the genesis of that. And then from there to on, and then women became very enterprising. And when they went and then even starting with the sabzi mandi kind of thing, from there how to crack deals and what it is, and then the whole group behavior and everything, and that was the genesis of that. Now, an interesting example, we know this famous story, famous
This is the story of how a detergent that emerged from a young chemist's backyard reached every Indian middle class home. You may or may not have used Nirma's washing powder, but it is highly unlikely that you would be unfamiliar with this jingle. Or the Nirma girl, who remains one of the most iconic brand mascots ever. In 1969, detergent giant Surf took the Indian markets by storm. But in the early days, detergent was a premium product that not many could afford. The time was ripe for a low-cost alternative. Karsan Bhai Patel, a chemist at the Gujarat government's Department of Mining and Geology, came up with a solution. He developed a detergent powder in his backyard and started selling it for just ₹3, which was way less than what people paid for Surf. The brand was named Nirma after Patel's daughter Nirupama, who'd passed away in an accident. He would go from door to door selling the product, and soon it picked up in Ahmedabad. Patel invested a little money in a television advertisement, and the catchy jingle and the sucky percent girl in the white frilly frock turned Nirma into a household name. Customers flocked to local markets to buy the product. The demand was so much that Nirma overtook Surf by a large margin and became the most sold detergent that year. Soon, Nirma started making toilet soaps, beauty soaps, shampoos, and toothpaste. The Nirma Institute of Technology was established in Ahmedabad in 1995. Later, the Institute of Management and Nirma University of Science and Technology were also founded.
So that's the Gujarati masculinity. Now let's look at the femininity. Okay. Historically, as I said, Gujarati women have dominated the household and its functioning. While the men were away on trade and business, women held the house together. And not only did she pass on family traditions and values to the children, but she took complete responsibility for their upbringing too. And she has embraced the power and responsibility she wields within a traditional role very, very cheerfully. So let's see one illustration here.
मस्ती नहीं कर दो, okay? Be a good boy. Go. Bye. ખબર છે હું એક બ્રાઇટ વિદ્યાર્થીની હતી કંઈક કરવા માંગતી હતી કંઈક બનવા માંગતી હતી પણ એમ તો મારી વાત પણ કંઈક એવી જ છે ઘર પરિવાર મેનેજ કરતા કરતા જોબ કરીએ તો પણ કઈ રીતે
જોબ શા માટે તમે તમારું પોતાનું શરૂ કરો ને
હેલો ઉષા
હાય
પોતાનો બિઝનેસ પણ તેમાં પૈસા તો બહુ જોઈશે ને
ઝીરો ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ
ઝીરો ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ
હા હું કરું છું આજે હું ઘર અને બિઝનેસ બંને સંભાળું છું
એવો કયો બિઝનેસ છે
હું એક
પ્રિન્સિપલ મેડમ
શી ઇઝ માય ક્લાયન્ટ હું LIC એજન્ટ છું
LIC એજન્ટ બનો હવે મોટું વિચારો અમારી વેબસાઇટ ઉપર જાઓ અથવા પોતાની નજદીકની LIC શાખાની સાથે સંપર્ક કરો.
There's an interesting story also I read as part of this. The step wells and like to fetch water and all those things first started in Gujarat because the women were expected to get the water. They used to go there and also hide themselves from the prying men because their men were not there. And then there used to be other elements in the society and all. To hide from them, they used to get into the step wells on the pretext of getting into water and all those things. But fabulous stories what used to happen there. So that's on femininity. And the next one is, and probably you know it more than me, but West Bengal. Okay, and this is a fascinating culture. We all know that. But let me talk about. I'm sure there are many Bengali men in this room. Okay, and don't object if you don't agree with me. But I guess you would agree. It's one of the nicest things that has happened as part of this. The Bengali men were called Gentile Babu. Okay. The Bengali male has a unique position in Indian culture. Okay, for him, masculinity had little to do with virility and physical strength and more to do with suave brilliance and gentlemanly manners. Okay. Thus define the macho male stereotype, multifaceted in intellectualism, strong opinions, delicate aesthetic sensibility, respect for women, and comfort with the sensitive side. So that's what. Do you agree or not? Do you violently agree? Thank you. And there's a lot actually. There's a lot. Like I'm just trying to capture a headline thought. But let's see one good example.
জড়িয়ে স্পেশাল মানুষদের জন্য ম্যাজিক মশলা ফ্লেভারের মিস্টার নুডলস। মিস্টার নুডলস, স্বাদ নাও ভালোবাসার।
Some of you may have done this with your daughters at home, but it's beautiful. Yeah. And the Bengali woman, steadfast Shakti. She's Durga Ma, completely. Yeah. And like the Bengali man, defies all Indian gender stereotypes. Okay, she's strong, independent, resilient, and empowered. Attributes linked to the man by default, like many times. That's what the Bengali woman comes so strongly. Backed by generations of strong female role models, she plays multiple roles with with absolute ease. Dutiful daughter, protective mother, seductive lover, passionate activist, all rolled into one. And that comes out very, very strongly in lot of pieces of work that has come out. She can match any man in intellectual debate and make sure her voice is heard loud and clear. This I can vouch coming from another culture, because I interact with a lot of Bengali women, and as clients or as friends and all those, but definitely comes out very well. And let's look at one example here.
আমরা নারী, আমরা পারি, আমরা একাই 100। তাই আমাদের চাই নিহার ন্যাচারালস, সেও একাই 100। পুষ্টি ভরা এই তেল চুল করে তোলে আমাদের মতোই শক্তিশালী। নিহার ন্যাচারালস, একাই 100।
That's West Bengal. So let me get into Punjab. Okay. Punjab, the male code is protective warrior. Very strong and rooted in a rich history of martial traditions and valor. This culture code embodies the ethos of strength, courage, and unwavering devotion to safeguarding loved ones and communities. That's why, like, you come across strong. That's why you come across as a warrior. Like, you generally see also people are very well built when you look at physically, when you look at them also. Lot of courage, lot of strength, and probably one of the reasons, the big reasons, the largest constituents of Indian army and or various kinds of things. Like whenever you talk about any bravely acts, and being taught to protect, fight back, and safeguard from a young age, the male identity that evolved in Punjab is over-indexed on physical and marital and martial prowess. That comes out very, very strongly. Everything about their image and identity is geared towards intimidation and visibly showcasing the ability to fight and protect, to dissuade potential enemies from attacking. That's what many times when you see that, why are they naturally aggressive? Or sometimes it is like, you have grown that way to defend yourself, to protect yourself, and also you come across very strong so that the others don't take advantage. However, this translates strongly to a patriarchal society also, that it leads into that, and that happens, in which the women are dominated and protected for their own good. Okay, those things do happen. And let me show one illustration here.
RDB, DPGC, Akshay, and Snoop D-O double G. Oh yeah, sing is king, this is the thing. Do you know what I mean? Follow me, listen to me for a second, check it. Sing is the king, check the record. And Maserati, Snoop, D-Go double G, the life of the party. Lay back, stay back, I'm in the Maybach. This ain't James Brown, but it's the big payback. Watch me zoom by, make it boom by.
I'll stop this one. It's a long video, just to show an illustration. Yeah? Now, the Punjab woman, the code is Princess in the Tower. That comes across strongly. In Sikhism, the feminine identity is deeply rooted in the concept of equality and respect for all individuals. That's the identity code, regardless of the gender. The Punjabi woman has physical strength, ambulatory freedom, is not hidden behind a gungat in the house, but despite the supposed equality, Punjabi women have long lived under the rule of the male counterparts as a society, like it's historically, that has how it has evolved. In Punjabi folklore, okay, the legacy of women who braved all odds to rebel against patriarchal structures and follow. And this history, it is not, but that's the genetic code, how it has emerged. Follow the call of love, all met with tragic ends. In modern history, of course, like when you see female infanticide in particular has been a major problem still in Punjab, despite all the modernity that we have, which serves to highlight how oppressed the woman is despite appearances and historical religious beliefs. So let's see one here representing the flag.
अभी तक तैयार नहीं हुई, फिर नीचे सब लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं।
पापा, सिर्फ समोसे खिला के कैसे डिसाइड कर लो कि जिंदगी इसी के साथ बितानी है?
जल्दी आना।
अरे नहीं, बस बस, आपने पहले ही बहुत खिला दिया। हमें तो आपकी पायल बहुत पसंद आई, तो मैं ये रिश्ता पक्का समझूं?
जी जरूर, लेकिन हमें भी तो आपके घर आना होगा।
मोस्ट वेलकम जी, पर क्यों?
हमारी बेटी को भी देखना है कि आपका लड़का घर संभाल सकता है या नहीं, खाना बना सकता है या नहीं, तभी तो हम देंगे अपनी लड़की।
इसे तो पानी उबालना भी नहीं आता, बस कभी कभी नूडल्स वगैरह बना लेता है माइक्रोवेव में।
माफ कीजिएगा, मेरी बेटी सिर्फ नूडल्स पर जिंदा तो नहीं रह सकती ना।
सर, 10 दिन बाद आप हमारे घर पे क्यों नहीं आते?
क्यों?
सर, तब तक मैं कुछ बनाना सीख लूंगा, फिर आ जाइएगा आप लड़का देखने।
That's one illustration of the changing culture. We come to Uttar Pradesh. Another very interesting one. It's anxious masculinity. Okay. It's anxious masculinity. It's interesting. Like when I'm not sharing the Andhra Pradesh here. There's hyper masculinity there. Everything is over the top. Okay. And here comes anxious masculinity. A constant anxious desire to forcefully assert one's masculinity, to demonstrate power and superiority over everybody, not just females, like over other rest of the males also they want to assert masculinity. Sense of emasculation shaped by invasions and colonialism. Like it comes like, because the UP is one culture or one state in our country which has been invaded the most, okay, for centuries. Like somebody or the other came to occupy that, and then there were wars and all those kinds of things that happened. Masculinity in UP has always resorted to violence to cover up an anxiety over loss of power, status, or position in the caste, class, or socio-political system. It's all about covering up that. And then you go and show this, like violence and all those kinds of things, fights that happen. So let me show one, a very entertaining.
यूपी मतलब दबंग लोग।
अबे भैया जी की गाड़ी कौन रोका?
पावर की देख जकड़, पैसों की देख अकड़, अब फैलेगा रायता, पंजों की देख पकड़।
ओ चचा,
छोटी सी बात पर आस्तीनें ऊपर चढ़ जाती है। यूपी वाले
दम दिखाने का मौका नहीं छोड़ते। अब चाहे वो पावर का दम हो, बाजुओं का दम हो, पैसों का दम हो, या फिर अच्छाई का।
भैया को बोलना पड़ेगा। सिमट गया रहता, अब भैया निकलेंगे। टेक केयर।
भैया चाय पियेंगे? ऐसे ही दमदार यूपी के लिए टाटा टी प्रीमियम ने बनाई है दमदार चाय। एक प्याली दम वाली, एक प्याली यूपी वाली।
Too anxious to assert their. And when it comes to the femininity, it is lifting the weight. Okay. Over the centuries, women in Uttar Pradesh have been controlled through multiple means. Multiple. It's ostensibly to protect their honor, contradiction between our powerful Devi status in mythic culture. You look at all the mythology and all of them are projected that way, like as Devis and all. And a repressed role in society is apparent. However, the status they are accorded and the atrocities they face tell a very sad story of repression. That's the truth of that. With greater exposure to national and global progress now that is happening, small sprouts of change we are witnessing, and a surprising story of emerging female empowerment is gradually on the rise. Like one of the data points that comes across is the maximum number of entrepreneurs amongst women in the country today is recorded from Uttar Pradesh. That's the state which has got the maximum number of the rise of because and I'm sure it is going to cause a new shift in the culture.
चाय मिल जाएगी आज?
सेल कहाँ है यार?
सुबह से चल रहा है ये आज। फोन लगा।
क्या माँ?
तू लगा रहा है या मैं लगाऊं?
चाय बना दो। क्या कर रही हो? बन रही है चाय। मैं बना रहा हूं।
तू क्यों बनाएगा?
आप?
खाने में क्या बनवाऊं? आप क्या खाओगे? हलवा पूरी बनवा ली इससे। बना पाएगा? ज्यादा हो जाएगा ना थोड़ा। चाय तो बना दी तूने। पूरी और डाल दो। सुबह की ड्यूटी इसकी लगा दो चाय बनाने की।
लेकिन प्लीज किचन गंदा मत करो।
अब तक बैठा हुआ देखो।
क्या ट्रेनिंग दी है आपने?
जैसे मैंने इसे बड़ा किया है मेरा सोचो तो।
सिखाया ही नहीं आपने।
ये क्या किया?
That's UP. Two more states I'll talk about. It's interesting. Kerala. We talked about anxious masculinity in Uttar Pradesh. I said about Andhra Pradesh with hyper masculinity. This is insecure masculinity. Yeah. Despite all, we talk about the most literate state and all those kinds of things, lot of progress happening and everywhere. And it's interesting, very, very it became like it agitated a lot of people coming from Kerala in our office also. But the truth is, like, it's not advertising guys and marketing people and then the corporate people are not the representative. It's the larger culture when you look at it. Masculinity in Kerala is complex. It's based on strong, unrepressed sexuality, where the number of amorous conquests celebrated a man's masculinity. Repression that is integral to monogamy, this form of male sexuality is under pressure currently. The result is insecure masculinity that depends on keeping the feminine firmly in the place and trying to show this is your place, and that's where you try to, and then you try to cover up your own insecurities. It comes with a deep resistance to changing roles because it would index a loss of manhood and often clearly manifests as toxic masculinity. Sometimes it could border on that, like, and all those kinds of things that happen. Because it's also, again, take that most literate state, like, people have, like, a lot of them are out of the country, and then women also have a strong voice, and this keeps coming back repeatedly. So how they're handling it, and look at this example of the masculinity.
സഹായിക്കണം
ആ തുണികള്
ഓ തുണികളോ ഉജാല ലിക്വിഡ് ഡിറ്റർജന്റ് ഓ
സഹായിക്കണോ
കറണ്ട് പോയില്ലേ
ഓഹോ അതെ ഇത് ബക്കറ്റ് വാഷിലും അത്ര തന്നെ ഈസിയാ തുടങ്ങിയേക്ക ഇതിന്റെ IGD ആക്ഷൻ കഠിനമായ അഴുക്കിനെ പെട്ടെന്ന് അലിയിച്ചു കളയുന്നു. അതിനാൽ തുണിയും നിറവും സുരക്ഷിതമായിരിക്കും. ഉജാല ലിക്വിഡ് ഡിറ്റർജന്റ് അഴുക്കിനെ അലിയിച്ചു കളയുന്നു. ഫ്രം ജ്യോതി ലാബ്സ്.
അതെ.
When it comes to the woman, it's the chameleon woman. Historically, women have been objectified in service to male privilege here. When you go and read the history of that, and that's what happened. Despite the matrilineal inheritance here in some sections of society, power always remained with the men and it continues to be that. And women have been powerless in the face of male dominance. And as I said, like, the toxic masculinity happens. Illusion of equality in Kerala, we tend to, because it's the most literate state and all those kinds of things. This way I said, like, then we tend to stereotype. Oh, like, everybody must be having equal voice and all those kinds of things. But it's not. Not substantiated by the reality of the woman's position. The average woman carries the imprint of servitude. And this is a very popular one. Most of you may have seen that in recently. But this personifies everything.
ഏട്ടാ ഞാൻ ഒരു ജോബിന് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യട്ടെ.
ജോബ് കൊള്ളാലോ.
എന്ത് ജോലിയാ മോളെ?
ടീച്ചറായിട്ട്.
എന്ത് ടീച്ചർ?
ഡാൻസ് ടീച്ചർ.
ഡാൻസോ? കൊള്ളാലോ.
അതെ, അതൊന്നും നമുക്ക് ശരിയാവില്ല മോളെ. കടല ഗംഭീരായിട്ടുണ്ട്.
So that continues. That's true. Iyer? Nambudri it is in Kerala. Yeah. Okay, that's it. The last is Tamil Nadu. Okay. Interestingly here, okay, there's only one code, and the masculinity and femininity here both share the same code, which is the patriarchal control. Okay. It's an interesting thing here is emulating the upper caste was the means of achieving mobility among lower caste non-Brahmins. Like, you tend to, many times I have come across this, you think that everybody is, anybody comes from Tamil Nadu means is a Brahmin. Okay. You tend to associate with that by adopting codes of living rituals, deeply patriarchal structures of family and ordering of roles. Entire Tamil population, like, it tends to be associated with the that's why you tend to call the Tamrams and all those kinds of things, Tamil Brahmin family and all, but that's not the truth. And this has profoundly shaped and tempered the trajectory of the female empowerment when we talk about how they have moved in the state, despite the emphasis on the education and then the whole Dravidian movement that happens. But there is a serious impact. Today, under pressure from urban stress and other global developments, both the Tamil woman and the family, they're all experiencing significant changes. You see that where the blend of modernity and then the tradition both coexist and both combine together. However modern she is, despite that, the traditional part is never given up. I'll show one which captures nicely here.
சோம்பேறி எழுந்துக்கிற டைமா இது என்ன பாரு 4:30க்கு எழுந்து பொங்கலுக்கு எல்லாம் ரெடி பண்ணிட்டேன் கோலை எப்படி
காஃபி கிடைக்குமா
கஷ்டப்பட்டு இவ்ளோ பண்ணிருக்கேன் ஒரு சின்ன அப்ரிசியேஷன் கூட கிடையாது
அப்ரிசியேஷனை வார்த்தையால தான் சொல்லணுமா சின்ன சின்ன சந்தோஷங்கள் வாழ்க்கையை ருசியாக்குற மாதிரி நெஸ்கேஃபே சன்ரைஸ் இனிய மனம் வீசும் கிரானியூல்ஸ் காஃபியை ருசியாக்கும் காஃபி எப்படி இருக்கு
அடுத்த பொங்கலுக்கு சொல்றேன் Nestle, good food, good life.
So now you look at this chart. Okay, I've taken 6. Okay, if I put 28, like it will be long. You look at the difference between, we are all one country. We keep talking about like in our culture of India and all, but within India, you see how many Indias, different Indias are there. Like, and then when you see how different in each state, how masculinity is different and how femininity is different. There are no two identical things. Okay, they're so different. Many times when I went through everything, like I felt when lot of these divisions that we have created, the geographical borders between one state and the other, it's completely geographical. Actually, like if you create a new map of India, new clusters of India, okay, for example, if I take West Bengal, Bihar may happen to be the neighbor, Orissa may happen to be the neighboring state. But if you do a cultural mapping of the country, it could belong to a very different cluster. You may have a different state as a border, cultural border. Okay, there may be 2 or 3 different states which could be part of one group kind of. So that is what the beautiful part. It's the amazing thing about our own culture. India is like fantastic. It is how different we are, and yet we are together. We are one, and all those kinds of things. Everything we coexist beautifully as much as you celebrate our similarities. And to me, the time has come. Because see, one of the big things that is happening in front of us is media is giving us that option today. Because there was a time that media didn't give you the option. Okay, people used to have the question of how do I do in mass media? And you put it in mass media, but it goes to the entire country. Today you can slice and dice a medium to a particular colony if you want. That's what digital medium is doing to us. And why should I? And when you start connecting with people, with their roots and with their culturally relevant stories, the connections will be far stronger, far deeper. And when you look at brands, when I look at brands are not just about some propositions and all some benefit statements that we write and put it. They're all magnets of meaning. Okay, what meaning can I create in somebody's life through this brand, and what is that relationship? In the end, it's all about creating those relationships. And but हम कहते हैं ना many times like इस रिश्ते को मैं क्या नाम दूँ, like what is the meaning of this relationship? And that's what brands do. And when you start connecting from a deep cultural perspective, and it is like, let's see that again when I talked about media, see the rise of local influences, the kind of local content that is being created, and it's all beautiful, right? It's all beautiful stories. Suddenly, like you may be something, you may be a global citizen sitting in some part of the earth or whatever it is. Suddenly something comes locally yours. Suddenly like wow, and you get up and notice that. So that's the beautiful part of this. And as I said, like if we give each culture its due and create strategies that respect the sanctity of the culture of that land, when you do that, the stories and conversations that brands like may well be that will be the magical part of it. And that's what the cultures see. And my appeal to you, the entire marketing fraternity, and then people who are all responsible for marketing and building brands, I would say like please look into this aspect, and you will see far bigger results, far better results, and far better connections. In the end, it's all about forging those relationships with the audience. And many times I always feel, and as Indians, okay, as proudly like as Indians, we know the best about building relationships. We may have learned marketing and all from Philip Kotler and all those kinds of books and all those things, wonderful, great thing. But I always feel like this culture is based on relationships, and brand is about relationships. And who knows building relationships better than Indians? And it comes naturally to us. We don't need to manufacture anything. It is deeply residing in us. And when we tap into each of these cultures, and again, see, to me, the brilliant thing that happened in front of us, what technology had done is like democratizing the media and slicing and dicing and giving you, making it very personal and giving the control to us. It's a question of about when one side of it is I can say, oh, I don't have any control. I don't know what to do. The other side is like, all the controls are given to me. Now I can decide. The power is in your hands. How do I do this? And in a particular context, you may have this kind of story. In another context, because you are appealing to a different kind of mindset, I can go in another way. And in the end, like the rather than looking at one magnum opus big thing and hoping like that it will do magical things and all it used to do once upon a time, the aggregate of many small things to me will be far bigger than one monumental thing that is happening like once in a blue moon kind of. So that is where I would urge all of you to look into it, tap into each culture. Each culture is so beautiful. Each culture is different from the other. Each culture has its own codes, has its own tensions, has its own rising themes and all. And how do we do that? Do I ride that theme or do I resolve a conflict in that culture and then become the representative symbol for that audience? And these are all the most amazing things. So I will close it with an amazing quote from this book, Nowhere, if you have read. Respect the sacredness of the earth you were born into, but the story of your soul is inseparable from the magic of your lands. How beautifully said. And that captures the entire thought. And that's my perspective to share with all of you this evening. Am I within time or have I overshot time? Yeah, sure. Please, go ahead. I'll try and answer to the best of.
So we'll take few questions from the audience. So kindly raise your hands and we'll pass the microphone. Okay, so we have someone here.
Good evening. I'm Resham Chandak from Lowe. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such an insightful session. And this is actually going to stay with us for a very long time.
Thank you.
Sir, but I have a question that for a pan-India brand like Lowe with where all the markets are or all the regions are maybe not equally important, but fairly important. Maybe one or two markets are important. For them, and when budget constraints, then how do we market to different regions, and how do we take, I mean, which region would be, like, for example, if we have 4 or 5 important, which would be very important for us, or how can we market?
Little adjustment you need to do in your head. Don't call it pan-India, call it multi-India. Automatically you will have a solution there. Okay, it's a multi-India. Of course, you may be present. See, we didn't look at anything beyond that. Okay, we didn't look at anything beyond that. We felt like, that's why I said like, we do it in one Hindi, and then doing in Hindi, we felt like, मैंने Hindi में कर लिया मतलब all India. Okay, that was the assumption. Okay, and it is not today. Today it is not that. It was once upon a time. I understand, because the media, you didn't have control of the media, and then it's damn tough. Like, how do you would have wasted so much of money. Like, even if your market is one state or 2 states and all. Today, media is giving you that option. Okay, you can pinpoint. As I said, you can pinpoint a particular colony if you want. And when you have the rich understanding of the culture and the opportunities are there, and then there is a method to connect. There's a means to connect with that audience and tell a story which is even more heart-tugging to them, like, even more culturally relevant to them. And it's a budget constraints. Like, even if I give you $10 billion, you will say I have budget constraints. Okay, but there is never. I have never come across any person, any marketing person who said, "Oh, I'm flush with funds. I have a lot of money. I don't know what to do with that money." However much money you get, like, you'll always say like, I don't have enough money. Okay, how do you find intelligent solutions? Like, you divide, and then you see, like, in this one, maybe you don't need to put anything on television. Like, so much is getting personalized. Maybe I'll approach it through digital. Let me try one market and then see how it is working and what happens there. And you will have a learning or two from there. And then you can try it. But I feel strongly. And then the other big thing is, it hurts the advertising folks. I'm in advertising, okay, and the clients will feel happy about it. All clients tell me many times, like, and some of them are very close CMO friends and all this. Tell your creative, पहले जैसा budgets नहीं मिलेगा production के लिए, okay? There are no budgets. You won't get 2 crores, 3 crores, and 1.5 crore and all those kinds of things. You have to do it in 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, because that's what it is. And arguably, and every client throws at me, hey, today you can shoot it with an iPhone. Of course you can shoot with an iPhone. There's no denying that fact, But I'm just exaggerating the point. But the thing is, the production costs have come down significantly. Okay, all those big productions that you still do it, but those are not the case. It's not like the agency will say, oh, like I can't do anything less than, because you can beautifully tell stories. See, this is what it does. When you have a culturally relevant story, a beautiful story, like, it's not about, because I was having a discussion with somebody today. They said, like, oh, it's Akshay Kumar, Sara North ke liye Akshay Kumar, like, South ke liye koi aur hai, something like that. It's not about a celebrity, like, who celebrity is celebrity. You may have celebrity, you may not have celebrity, it doesn't matter. Is that a culturally relevant story? And then, like, when you have that story, how do you do it? You see, a lot of stuff that I have shown today, none of them are some major productions or anything like that. There's simple slice of life stories which are capturing that insight into that culture. That's right. I would strongly urge, because to me, that will be the story of our country going forward. Like, how do I build a multi-India brand? Like, and it's fantastic. See, globally they have built. At some stage, globally they have realized, a lot of people, I can't slap on one globally made story into all over the world. And they have come to country. Now it's up to us. Like, okay, and we are many countries within one country. And then we can do.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yep. Sure.
Good evening. I am Ms. Chayat Kahali from Communications. We are providing communicative solutions. So my question is that how
I think yes, the microphone is not proper. I think maybe. Yeah.
Thank you for your elaborate suggestions for making marketing knowledges. And my question is how to make a productivity, how to make a product to the level of a brand.
Product to the level of a brand.
Product level of a brand that we can market it to the country or out of the country.
See, everything starts with a product only. You have to have a product to create a brand out of it. Okay.
The question is how to make a product to the level of a brand that we can execute for the marketing level. So,
within the country, out of the country. No, again.
Means in marketing strategy, how we can productivity the marketing products, like any of product. It can be a detergent powder, it can be a soap, it can be a telecommunicative product. So how could we salute the giving the solutions for making the product to the level of the brand?
See, again, it's a very simple thing. Like, product is what you manufacture, brand is what the consumer buys. Okay, as if I have to give it a very simple definition of that. And it is, as long as it is in your hands, it's a product. The moment you put it out into the market, and then you give it an image. Okay, you give it an image, like the kind of what are basic things you look at, like what product benefits, though you would know it, and functional benefits and all. What would be the emotional benefits? What are the personality values and all those kinds of things? And then you create a brand out of it. And then you put it out in the market, if it is the Indian market or a particular state or whatever it is. And if the same product has to travel out of our country, And again, it has to be a relevant product to that particular audience, whichever market you want to take it to. Unless it is, people have to have some sort of relevance for that. Is there a market? Even before we get into that, like, you do the market scoping and all those kinds of things. Is there a market for this particular product, for this particular offering or service or whatever it is kind of thing? It's a whole aspect of marketing that you determine and then you decide.
Thank you, sir.
No. No.
Is it better? So
Yeah.
thanks, Subbu, for a very insightful perspective. I think for many of us, it's a very new perspective. To look at it, your last slide, the way you showed, it is almost like a playbook already, which a manager can just pick up and then start applying. Problem is, like you mentioned, we have all grown up studying Philip Kotler's and where brand must have a uniform personality, brand must have uniform messaging. That has been the tradition of marketing for so many years. I think from the beginning of marketing, which is, like you said, somewhere around mid 20th century, till now. So now, if we say that we start creating these multiple conversations with different audience based on the cultural sensitivity, the job of a marketer becomes very difficult. Because you have to understand each of your consumer cohorts much deeply. It is not about how your consumers look, because all of them can look alike. They are wearing the same clothes. They are probably also speaking similar language, because we all speak English now. But their motivations, their traditions, like you said, the culture code, which is embedded in their genetics and guides their behavior, is very different. So to understand that, and B, to create so many variations of communication for a brand which is supposed to have a uniform strategy and uniform personality. How do you think managers can manage that?
Good question. Yeah. Okay, let me give you a perspective. Again, what Kavita has asked, like the way we have grown up and practiced. Okay, we always lived with this thing with this idea, but brand is about one thing. To me, my appeal to all of you: get it out of your heads. Brand is never about one thing. No brand is about one thing. It is mass media which forced the brand to say one thing, because it's difficult. It's difficult to control. It's mass media. It is like, when I say no human being is about one thing. Okay, human beings are about many things. Exactly, the brand is like a human being. A brand is about many things. You buy something for many things. You don't buy for one thing. But when mass media had to be controlled in a controlled manner, controlled and calibrated manner, we said it's about one. Today, what is mass media? There is no mass media. For somebody, mass media could be YouTube. For somebody, it could be TikTok. For somebody, it could be X. It could be something else kind of thing. We don't really know what is mass media. That is not there. And that's one part of it from a brand media. Now, when come to the audience, the question that, again, the other part of the thing. Eventually, it's all about connecting with the audience. And when I look at people, when I said about the younger people today, and the same point that I had said earlier, I said method actors in a live movie. And once upon a time, people didn't have many outlets to express themselves. And so everything was predictable. Okay, you saw somebody and then you had a conversation with 15, 20 minutes and all that. Oh, this guy or this girl comes from this land, speaks this and all. You could write maybe 5 pages about that. And identical. Everything matched. Today, a person may look something, but the person could be entirely different when you strike a conversation. Because people are not. The other part of it is also people are coming together through common ideas, through common beliefs, through common things. And then, because I had 1,000 friends on Facebook, for example, somebody says 800 of them you won't have met. But you and I connect with each other and then exchange some notes. Now, when I look at that, because there are so many outlets for people to express themselves, and you are seeing multiple dimensions of a human being coming out, okay? And there is no one entity. Somebody is something like at 9 o'clock. The same person is at 12 o'clock is something else. 3 o'clock is something else. And 5 o'clock is something else. 9 o'clock is completely entirely different. And you see the different identities that are happening in a single day. 4 to 5 different identities that are likely to happen. So which is where I started feeling now, people, it's time that we look at the flexible identity. You start building flexible identity and it's not typecasting in one identity. And if people are flexible that way, and the flexibility is what? Like, it's a multi. And what they start doing is, they start connecting with brands or people who are also like that. That's why my recommendation today is about don't have one archetype for the brand, which is what we have grown up with. Have an archetype family. There could be one core archetype. And what are the peripheral archetypes? Because see, again, look at the medium. You have multiple media options. In a particular medium, because the mindset of the audience is this, now I will come across this way. In another medium, where the connection is completely different, the mindset of the receiver is very different. Now you may have to have a different dimension, and I need to be a different kind of storyteller there. See, it's the beautiful part of it is what happens is, let's go back to the basic thing, a very, very basic. Okay, when we talk about a brand, the question that she asked about a brand. Now, what is a brand? You can give many definitions of a brand. At its heart, at the heart of it, at its core, I'll put it in a simple term. It's a relationship. It's a relationship between the product or the service and then the audience. The relationship, right? Now look at how do relationships get built between two people. Suppose he is there, he and I are there. Now, look at the relation. Now, how do I get to know him now? Okay, maybe I strike a conversation for half an hour I spent with him, and he and I find some sort of commonality, something happened. So there is nice, I like him and all those things. He might say the same thing about me and all. So a relationship has started on one dimension. Now maybe another 10 days later I meet him, I spend another hour, maybe I discover another dimension of him. Oh, I didn't know that he has got a nice funny side, lighter side to him. Now the more you peel the onion, the more aspects I discover about that individual, the bonding becomes closer. Okay, and now you start getting, the bonding gets stronger. Imagine a bonding on one dimension versus half a dozen dimensions. That's exactly for the brand also. There is one dimension that we communicated through one medium or whatever it is. Today I have the opportunity to relate to the same audience through different contexts. Because content is, at the end of the day, is consumed out of a context. Okay, the context is the story. And then I start connecting. And then the bonding becomes even stronger. It's that. So that's why I would say have a flexible identity for the brand. And that also gives you the freedom. Depending on rather than an iron cast, typecast kind of thing, it gives me that freedom. Sometimes you feel, sometimes many times in our lives we come across there is somebody who comes across as very serious and all those things, is your boss or whatever it is. Now suddenly you discover another dimension to that boss. I didn't know that. So you start relating to that. You started connecting. Or somebody could have another dimension to it, different. So that's what I would say. Have a flexible identity, have an archetype family, and then use the multiple medium, multiple cultures and all. It's hard work for marketing people. As marketing people, okay, we got spoiled for a long time. Okay, and it was easy. Everything was not easy. I won't trivialize by calling it easy. There is a certain way we conduct it, and then because that's how the world was. There's a different world. We keep talking about again as. Imagine ourselves as consumers. How are we behaving as consumers? Look at all the interactions that have changed in our lives in the last 10 years as consumers. 3 days back, I was talking to somebody, as a colleague of mine, and booking a Uber. Okay, opens the app, hardly 10 seconds, 15 seconds. He didn't find a car. He's getting restless. Oh shit, these guys don't work, it is useless and all. There was a time that you waited for cabs for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. If the cab is not available, you walked a kilometer or two. Today we have become restless. You go to a bank, for example, a bank, there was a time, right? Till the banker decided to call you, you waited. Okay, there is like, my number has to show on the display board and I was given a token and all. Today, like, can you wait? No, we won't wait. Because our own parameters have changed. Our own measurements have changed. Like, we as consumers, when you are changing, we are so restless. And like, everything is, and because this is what, that cross-fertilization is happening. So much of cross-fertilization of technology happening. You demand, banker gives me in 5 minutes, now tomorrow, same thing you demand in a restaurant. Okay, why can't you do in 5 minutes or somewhere else kind of thing? Like, it's exactly like, how we are changing. And it's beautiful. And we haven't even, nobody has asked me about AI and all. Nowadays, like, it's any forum that you go, AI, like, as a question. Thankfully, none of you asked. Okay, sure, we'll have a call. Now, the more AI comes into our lives, imagine, like, to me, that's a beautiful part of it. In an AI-led world, how do I build brands? And that, to me, I'm looking forward to that exciting challenge. Yes. Kavita, hopefully I have answered. Yeah, thanks.
The most important takeaway is Subbu, that we have to work harder.
We have to work harder. So true. We have to work harder. We have to work harder.
Suppose
Good evening.
one of the parameters. So I'm from RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, and we have several businesses that we look at. But there's a very specific one which is very dear to our hearts, but has a very cultural challenge to it. As you said, Uttar Pradesh, considered very eccentric. What if we have something which is quintessentially Uttar Pradesh, and we need to create a multi-India appeal for it? That's my only question to you.
No, it is designed for Uttar Pradesh.
It is.
Right?
It is a Uttar Pradesh proposition.
It's a Uttar Pradesh.
It's a Uttar Pradesh proposition. It is very rooted to the culture. It's got great, a bond to Uttar Pradesh. But we need to create a more bigger relevance for it, multi-India, and to an extent also global, without losing that very UP root to it.
See, I would say like this. Okay, and you may have a successful product or a brand there in Uttar Pradesh. The same proposition may not work in other markets. Okay. Now, when I say as a brand, you keep your soul intact. Okay, your soul cannot change. Okay, what your soul is soul. Like, it's like us. I may in another forum you go and like may have a different avatar or whatever it is kind of thing, but your soul is intact. You keep that, and I would say you want to go pan-India, different multi-India, whatever it is. If it's successful in one market, of course it can travel to other markets. But I would say take that soul and then see what is the face you want to give there. How do you want to relate yourself? Because it's a culturally different market. Now you need to find a cultural insight into that market. If that doesn't happen, okay, the connection will not be there. Because many times what happens in many markets, something new comes into the market. Now there are a set of bunch of people. Instinctively, I'll fall in love, I'll go and buy. Because there is a newness to it. Okay, chalo, like it's very successful, let me go and buy it. It happens once, at best twice. Now you want to have a sustained relationship. Now I need to have it's like this. You go from here to some Italy or something like that, for example. 3 days, 4 days, like pizza, pasta and all you can eat wonderfully. After that, yaar, dal chawal do, roti do, like, it's like that, because that's your comfort. Okay? It happens that way, but you need to find culturally relevant. See, it's actually, those things are getting more and more pronounced now. It is.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, Subbu. My name is Amit. I'm doing a very easy job as of now. Like, I am heading a regional challenger ice cream brand called Lowe. For us, the job has been very easy, and in fact, you have reinstated a lot of confidence in terms of what we have been doing. You started off with the mangoes part of it. We use Himsagar mangoes in our mango ice cream rather than Alfonso.
Right.
So that is the way we have been doing. My question is, I think you have answered it a bit in terms of what you answered for her, is like all regional brands, we have also the aspiration of moving nationally. Now, with QCOM as a channel, you can do that also.
Correct.
Pretty easy, right?
Correct.
I just wanted to know now. Now we are going really code into the nuances of Bengal, and really picking it up, evoking the emotions of Bengalis. The culturally proud people really going and buying our product.
Right.
We wanted to know in terms of what at an aspect of going national, where should we stop? We should not be. Where should we know that this we are overdoing, and when we go nationally, we should not be taken as stereotyped Bengali brand coming here. Yeah.
See,
So
there is no formula to that. Okay, there is nothing like it's you decide. Okay, whether you're going over the board or you're going at a steady pace and all those kinds of things. Like, I would say, see, if you are doing an e-commerce brand, this question would not have come, because e-commerce brands are like they look at everything in life of 3 years. Okay, everything. How do I quickly scale up everything? But I would say evaluate carefully. There are several parameters. Obviously, like it's end of the day, it's business and it's investments and all those kinds of things. There will always be a market. Market consumers are always there. Audience is always there. It's always about finding a relevant connection with them and for the proposition that you have, the product or the service or what. I've seen people okay, fine. Now let me give an example, something that I worked on, like a technology brand, like I can call it, like a telecom brand is basically. I worked on for many years on brand idea. Oh. And now you have to buy all the spectrum and all those kinds of things, like government has become very smart and all those. During the days when the spectrum was not there, okay, and the spectrum auctions and all were not there, I'm talking about this was 2007, 8, around that time is when idea was like, let me tell you an interesting part which could give you an answer. Interesting part, like a way, how do you balance that, like for your future aspirations also. Okay, today you are in West Bengal, tomorrow 2 markets and 3 markets, but I know 1 year down the line I'm going to get into South, and 2 years down the line into the West and all. Idea was a very regional brand. Idea was a very regional brand present in 3 or 4 markets. By the time Hutch was established as a national player, Airtel was all over the country, Hutch was all over the country. Idea was present in 3 or 4 markets at best: Western UP, Goa, Karnataka. Karnataka, they acquired Spice Telecom, and one more, something I don't exactly remember, therefore not. But they had a very interesting strategy, okay, as a business strategy, as a marketing strategy, because, and I remember the head of idea at that point, on the CEO telling, we will take another 3 years time before we are present all across the country. Okay, we will be in all the 22 circles of the country. Today we may be in 3 or 4 circles. It's a 3-year roadmap that we have. And now the amazing part of what he stated as the fantastic thing I felt is, we are a regional brand today because I have the aspiration of becoming a true blue national brand in 3 years time, which I'm present everywhere. Now what I want to do is, as a brand, I want to punch above the weight. I am a local regional brand, but I want to create the perception of a national brand. Okay, that let it come across to people as like there are, if you have to pick up 3 top brands in the country, there is Airtel, there is Hutch, and there is Idea. It should come across that way, perception wise. The reality is not there. Reality is you are a 4-circle brand. But can you create a perception that I'm a brand for 22 circles? Like, people should start seeing it that way. So that is when, as a communication strategy, what we did was, fine, you are not a market leader. You don't have market leadership. Market leadership belongs to Airtel and Vodafone. sorry, Hutch, and then which became Vodafone. We said, like, we don't have market leadership. We're not a market leader, but we can be a thought leader. We can be a thought leader. We will lead. We will not talk about tariffs and plans and all these kinds of things. We will avoid that. And we will talk about big issues which are plaguing this country and how a simple telephony solution can solve a complex human problem. And that is where, like, and I picked up a health issue, population issue, education issue in this country, or various kinds of issues that are taken. How a simple telephony idea can solve a complex issue, or caste issues in this country. Like, people are known by the name, which caste they belongs to, and, like, can we do that? And that was 3 years we did that, and it worked brilliantly. They got that air cover. And then while on the ground, they went from circle to circle, like, gradually in 3 years' time, they were present in all the 22 circles. By the time what happened was, now you are here you are in Bihar, for example. By the time you moved into UP, people have already known about ID. So there is a kind of acceptance. Like, we started welcoming. Oh, okay, fine. It's not that you are an unknown person there. So that's something, like, which was an interesting experience, a learning experience I had in my. Yes, go ahead, please.
I think. Would you need the mic? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Which is jostling for 3-second attention, right? The attention span.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it is the algorithm that defines, the precision that defines.
Yeah.
So whatever you have spoken today, how does culture maintain its relevance in this algorithmic world, which is not exactly my choice, but what the platform is deciding for me?
Good question. Okay, very good question. I'll tell you, the people who have 3-second attention span are the same people who are binge watching also. They're binge watching, sitting for hours together and watching content, and particularly weekends and all like. So to me, I always feel, if the story is interesting, if the story is appealing, if the story I find relevant to me, okay, it's a simple. To me, it's human minds are quite intelligent. When I want to switch off, I'll switch off. And then it gets ready. In the first 3-4 seconds, I realize, like, do I want to spend time there or don't spend time there? So I would say that's where, to me, like, one argument, I would say, like, one side of it is, okay, now it becomes even more important for me to make a culturally relevant story and make it even personalization also. Like, if I can personalize, that's what technology, AI and all will help us. Like, same story, I can tweak it to your particular individual needs. And that's what will happen. The bigger thing to be, the bigger challenge will happen is when we start delegating, which we started in a very rudimentary way now. We start delegating a lot of things that we do and to digital assistants. Okay, lot of jobs that we do, lot of our thinking also will start outsourcing. Okay, don't even want to think about it. Digital assistant will handle that for me. And many times I feel like, a lot of things that we do today, simple things like renewing your car insurance, or, like, paying something and all those things. I leave it to you won't even bother. Your digital assistant will take care of it. Like, that it'll tell you, oh, your insurance is coming up for renewal. Okay, today what do we do when insurance? Most of the time when car insurance comes for renewal, people do, if somebody has time, somebody may still be cutting checks. If somebody has time, they will sit on the aggregator site and I will look at some 10 of them, 10 who is giving me the best deal. And when your digital assistant takes over, it tells you and saying that coming up for renewal, and I'm recommending this brand. Because in the same time that you process 10, potentially that can process 200, okay, 250 brands. And then it's throwing you an option and then say, okay, you go ahead. And then from the back end, your money gets deducted from your bank account, everything gets. The question is all the effort that we're putting to build brands. And I have to build a brand to the machine and not to the human mind. Okay. And that becomes to me that we haven't cracked. We don't really know. I know because at one side of it, we talk about how people are becoming more machine like. Okay, there is another attempt that is happening in the world to make machines more human like. Okay, then machines will start as they become more and more intelligent. That's what they'll start thinking, because it's as you said about it, it's algorithmic. Because you see, this is where the big inflection point to me will come, when information technology and biotechnology get fused. When we start having, all of us, what there will be a day we'll all start having chips in our body. And the moment that happens, we are having in a certain way through wearables and all those things. And then the next stage of evolution is we'll actually put a chip inside the body. And then they will process the information. They will know much more about us than we even get to know about. And that happens, like, where the machine then starts becoming, then the machines, because it's connected. And then both are our body is in sync with my digital assistant. And then that's how that machine will start thinking like you, more like you, and in the mind. When that starts happening, now probably my guess is, okay, this is how Subbu behaves. Probably now his machine also, now let me try and tune it that way, kind of, maybe the messaging and all. But that will be damn interesting challenge to see how do we build brands for machines.
I had a question. So I just had one more question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Subbu. Thank you for the insightful PPT that we have shown. My name is Orko Dasgupta. I represent the ASME Business School under Techno India University, and it has been an honor listening to you. But I would like to ask you a question based on much more to the educator in you, because you are an educationalist yourself. And we have seen perfect marketers, asking about marketing questions, and marketing and brand communication is a practice to them. But when it comes to education, and we are talking about multiculturalism in India, there is also an individual culture that is trending, because change is constant and everybody is changing. Whereas Punjab has the warrior man, it also has a poet man. Now it's Diljit Dosanjh. We have the intellectual man, but we also have Dada, who is the fighter in the Bengali man. So we talk about multiculturalism, which is great, and it does exist, but there is also an individual thought process where change is happening and everybody is conforming into metamorphosizing into an individual. So when it comes to education, which tends to be a little bit of rigid, because I teach young marketers, how important do you think it is for business schools and educators who do not come from the marketing field, like you are a profession where marketing is much more of a practice, where we are preaching young students and young marketers? How important do you think is to integrate and inculcate these kind of changes, where we are talking about multiculturalism, where we are talking about individuals who are constantly changing? Because within the multi-India, there is also the multi-individual who is constantly keeping changing. How important do you think is to integrate these kind of policies in business schools all over, so that the future marketer, the future of our country, knows it since the day they start doing it, rather than learning on the job?
You can start with yourself first in the wherever you are teaching, because that's the reality. That's the reality of today, and that's going to be a deeper reality going forward tomorrow. Unfortunately, what happens is, like, all the literature, all the content that exists with us in the form of textbooks or whatever it is, kind of the case studies and all of them have come from the past. Okay, what I would say is, follow the culture. Look at the culture closely. What is happening on a day-to-day basis, and study the history. See, I'll say something, okay? Though it's very different from what I had studied in my life. Like, when if marketing, the subject of marketing, if you go back and see the history, okay, marketing, and then as a result of brands, has been written by economists. If marketing and brand building, if it had been written by sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists, it would have been a very different subject. And economists have written marketing and put that filter to the world and everything became a demand supply theory. Okay, we started applying that to brands, and a whole evolution happened that way. It's not that it is wrong, or I'm not saying it hasn't worked or anything like that. It worked in a certain way, and probably there is another way now. Okay, there's another way to do it, and look at from a sociological angle, cultural angle, anthropological angle, and it gives different perspectives, different answers. Otherwise, we have dumbed it down that this is the only way to think. And to me, that is it's a time to challenge that and look at different areas and different aspects. See, if you look at it, why are so many subjects created in the world? Okay, deep. I always feel you peel the onion, you come down. The fundamental understanding of the universe is the same. The different subjects and different way have been created to understand the world through multiple lens, through different lens. Otherwise, the world would have been very boring. Everybody would have been processing the whole world in one way. Everybody would have been living in one way. Everybody would have been doing the same. And you wouldn't have seen the beautiful differences to understand the world even more, even better. And this is where it is. And then when you start, when I looked at it, when I got into advertising, and there is a gentleman who suggested to me, because I didn't start in advertising as a career. I came from tech. I said, and he was a wonderful man, and he told me, whatever you had studied so far, okay, is great, and don't leave that. Get into the depth of it. Now start looking at the world from sociology lens, psychology lens, anthropology lens, and try and understand cultures, try and understand societies and all. You'll get a different dimension, different way, lens to look at the world. And then you see, everything is in the cause of, how, when you come to the business, how do you make sense of the world from multiple. See, that's why I said sometime back when I was saying it's about inexact science. And see that many times I question myself, when I go to a client and I present a point of view, a perspective, what is the client buying into? The client is buying into hope that works. Okay? Even the client wouldn't cannot exactly say this will work or this will not work, kind of. I'm giving it, if I'm giving that hope, I need to be damn convinced about what I'm presenting. And my conviction comes from how deep have I dug into. Okay? Because it's important in marketing, for every 1 inch width, you need to go 1 mile depth. Otherwise, it is scraping the surface, because it is an exact science. Science is exact. It won't change. It's predictable. It happens the way it has to happen. And here it is not that. And when a client puts money, many times, when I say in our office, a client hasn't bought this. Why would somebody put crores of rupees on this? What is the evidence you have given? Is there a numerical evidence, cultural evidence, and all? Okay, fine. Now I go and say, I have understood this from sociology lens, a biology lens, a physics lens, a mathematics lens, and all. Now you start. I look at 4 or 5 different perspectives. Then I start noticing a pattern. That pattern determines your strategic path. Okay, probably that's what I'll put my money onto it. That gives me the confidence. Okay, that's where it is. And encourage people to live. There is something which is there. They can mug up that and pass their exams and all those things. But if they want to become practitioners of the future, I would say, look at the world very differently, through very different lens. Okay? Don't look at marketing from an economic lens and all those things, which is there, which is documented. For that, you don't need great debates and discussions and all. And have debates and discussions throughout. Get different kinds of people. Get storytellers, get people from culture industries. And as much as when you call guest faculty, you call from the corporate sectors, right? You call the marketers or whoever it is, different kind of. Get people from other industries, get other culture industries, and then see what lens, what perspective they give on the same point. Thank you all so much. It has been a pleasure spending with you this evening.
Thank you so much, sir, for this truly enriching and impactful session. Please give a big round of applause. Thank you. I would like to request Mr. Hoon, Chairperson, Marketing and Brand National Committee of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to please come on stage to present a token of appreciation to Mr. S. Subramanyeswar on behalf of the, on behalf of the Chamber, please. Thank you so much, sir. So may I now request Mr. Praveen Srivastav, Chief of Marketing and Sales, Branded Products and Retail, Tata Steel Limited, and Co-Chairperson, Marketing and Brand Committee, for delivering the formal vote of thanks.
This is not a critical practice. What have all the brands for like boy, go through them, and I want to present this to the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I want to give it on my behalf for your library, sir. And please go through this. They got, and I've written them in a storytelling format. I haven't used any marketing jargon. They're all like interesting stories. You can go through that. At the end of each story, there is a QR code which you can scan and see all the work done. And you have anecdotes from clients and then from people who worked on these brands and all. And it's my absolute pleasure to present it.
So thank you. I stand here on behalf of the Marketing and Brand Committee of BCCI to thank all of you for being present here today. I think Think Series is one of our important event in the calendar of BCCI, and I'm happy that all of us could be part of this wonderful evening. And special thanks to the architect of this wonderful evening, Subbu. It was just fantastic to hear you out there. We have read your articles, I've seen you on TV, but to hear you in person was absolutely I think both culture and diversity are complex subjects and will remain complex, I think, for times to come. But at least your talk has given us a framework on which we can work ahead and go ahead. Other than AI, I think the other dreaded word for us, which management throws us at all the time, is now hyper-personalized. What are you doing about hyper-personalized? I think your framework again opens up, I think it's a roadmap to reach out to hyper-personalized. So thanks for that. And thanks for all the lovely stories which you call the spices of life. Sorry. I think those are wonderful stories and that will remain with us for a long time. And the playbook, as people have already said, I think we'll go back with those playbook in back to our office. So thanks, Subbu, once again. I would also like to thank all the sponsors, our Patron-in-Chief, GIS Group, Telegraph, Fearless Group, and the 6 Paliganj Place waiting up for us upstairs. I'd be failing if I don't thank the wonderful team of BCCI, Swarnali, Vandrilla, and the entire team. I think in such a short notice, they have put up this whole show. Once again, meticulously done. And thanks all of you. And thanks to all of you. I think all of you could be here and the way you interacted. And I think if Swarnali had not stopped, there were 10 other questions which was coming. I think can continue to interact. So thanks once again. Have a good evening, have a good weekend, and have a good year ahead. And all of us can move to second floor for the dinner. Thank you.